He is probably not going to come directly to you and say, "I just want to hold you." For many men, that is not how they express what is happening inside them. They do not always speak it. They do not always announce their feelings or sit down and explain every emotion in perfect words that leave no room for doubt. But his actions, his body language, and the way he moves around you may have been revealing the truth for a long time. You might have been standing right in front of him, sharing the same space, having the same conversations, and watching these little moments happen without fully trusting what you were noticing. You may have told yourself, "Maybe I am reading too much into this." You may have thought, "Maybe he is just naturally kind. Maybe he acts this way with everyone. Maybe I am only seeing it because I want it to be true." You may have tried to convince yourself that your feelings were creating a story that was not really there. But then the same things kept happening again and again. That quiet feeling inside you kept returning. That little voice that says, "Wait, this feels different. This is not how he treats everyone else. There is something personal about this. There is something intentional here." And maybe you were right. Maybe you were noticing something real all along. The problem was never that you could not feel it. The problem was that you did not have the words to understand what you were seeing. And that is exactly what we are going to uncover today. Because once you recognize these signs, you will stop sitting alone later, replaying every conversation and every small moment, asking yourself what it all meant. You will start understanding what is happening while it is happening. You will be able to notice the signals without needing him to explain everything with words. But before we look at those signs, there is something important we need to understand first. We need to understand why many men do not simply say what they feel. This is the part that people often ignore, but it is the foundation behind everything else. When you understand this, his actions become much easier to read. They stop looking random. They stop feeling confusing. They start making sense. Many people express emotions differently. For many women, talking about feelings creates closeness, saying, "I miss you," "I have been thinking about you," or "I just want to spend time with you," can feel natural. Words help bring the emotion outside. They create a bridge between two people. They turn an invisible feeling into something both people can hold and understand. But for many men, especially when emotions are new, uncertain, or still developing, saying those feelings out loud can feel like a much bigger step. The moment they speak it, the feeling becomes real. And real feelings come with real risks. If he admits he cares, he becomes vulnerable. If he admits he wants closeness, he creates the possibility of rejection. If he opens that door, he cannot always pretend everything is casual anymore. The comfortable balance between two people can suddenly change. The simple connection that felt easy can suddenly feel more serious. And that is why many men do not begin with words. They begin with actions. They communicate through presence. They communicate through small movements, small choices, and the way they naturally behave around someone who matters to them. Instead of saying everything directly, he may show it through the way he stays close to you. He may find reasons to be near you without making it obvious. He may position himself closer during conversations. He may naturally move toward you in a room full of people. He may look for small opportunities to create moments together. These things can seem tiny when you look at them separately, but when they happen repeatedly, they begin to create a pattern, and patterns reveal more than one single moment ever could. This is where many people become confused because they are waiting for a dramatic confession. They are waiting for a clear sentence that says, "I like you," or "I want to be close to you." But attraction and emotional connection often appear quietly before they are ever spoken. They appear in the pauses. They appear in the attention. They appear in the way someone's energy changes when you enter the room. Pay attention to that, because sometimes the strongest messages are not delivered through words. They are delivered through behavior. The way someone looks at you, the way they listen, the way they remember small details, the way they seem more comfortable, more open, or more present when they are around you. These are the moments people often overlook because they seem too simple. But simple does not mean meaningless. Sometimes the smallest actions carry the biggest messages. And once you learn how to recognize them, you start seeing the difference between ordinary kindness and a deeper personal connection. So as we move through these signs, do not focus on just one isolated action. Anyone can have one friendly moment. Anyone can be warm once. Anyone can accidentally show attention. What matters is consistency. What matters is whether his behavior keeps showing the same direction over time. Because genuine interest usually creates a pattern. It shows up in repeated choices. It appears in the way he responds to you, the way he makes space for you, and the way he naturally tries to maintain a connection. The goal is not to become obsessed with analyzing every movement or creating meaning where there is none. The goal is to understand human behavior with more clarity, to notice what is already happening instead of constantly doubting yourself. Sometimes the answer you are looking for is not hidden in a perfect sentence. Sometimes it has been visible in front of you through 100 small moments. And once you understand these signals, you will not need to guess so much anymore. You will start seeing the difference between someone who is simply being polite and someone whose attention has a deeper reason behind it. He shows it through small repeated behaviors that carry a deeper message, even though they may look completely normal at first glance. And the interesting thing is, these signs are so easy to miss if nobody has ever explained what they actually mean. Many women were never taught to notice these things. They were taught to wait for a confession. They were taught that words are the real evidence, that hearing someone say something is what makes it official, believable, and safe to trust. But that belief is exactly what leaves so many people feeling lost, overthinking every interaction and searching for answers that were already visible right in front of them. The signs were there, the moments were there, the behavior was speaking. But nobody taught you how to understand the language. So let's change that now. Let's look closely at these 8 signs one by one. And by the time we reach the end, you may look back at moments you already experienced with him and suddenly realize that things you once ignored were actually telling you something important. The first sign is that he repeatedly finds little reasons to reduce the distance between the two of you. And these reasons may not always make complete sense when you stop and think about them. Let's be clear about what this means. This is not about him walking across the room because he has an actual reason to speak with you. This is about the small excuses, the simple reasons that seem believable enough on the surface but become interesting when they happen again and again. He chooses to stand closer to you even though there was plenty of space somewhere else. He moves his chair nearer during a conversation, even though he could already hear you clearly. He places himself beside you when you are with a group, even though standing somewhere else would have worked just as well. He somehow ends up in the same area of the room where you are, even when there is no real reason for him to be there, except that you are there. And the important thing to understand is that he is usually not sitting there creating a plan in his mind. He is not thinking, now I will move closer. That is not how these moments usually happen. When someone feels naturally drawn toward another person, their behavior often moves before their thoughts fully catch up. It is not a strategy, it is an instinctive pull toward what feels interesting and meaningful. So if you keep noticing that he naturally ends up near you, that the space between you becomes smaller throughout the day or evening, that he repeatedly chooses your side when he has other options, do not immediately dismiss it as random. Do not keep telling yourself that it means nothing. Sometimes the smallest choices reveal the strongest feelings. His actions may be quietly showing a desire to be closer without him ever having to say a single word. The second sign is that he finds small reasons to create physical contact with you, even when there is no real need for it. And it is important to understand the type of touch we are talking about here. This is not about obvious or dramatic moments. It is about the subtle ones, the quick ones, the ones that are so easy to ignore because they seem too small to matter. He lightly touches your arm while passing by, even though there was enough room to walk without making contact. He places his hand gently on your back while guiding you through a doorway or moving through a crowded space. He notices something on your clothing and fixes it for you, or reaches over to move something away from your face, and the moment lasts slightly longer than the action actually requires. He playfully touches your shoulder when you both laugh about something, even though a simple smile or laugh would have been enough. These moments may appear insignificant, but they can reveal a lot.
Physical touch is one of the strongest forms of human communication because it creates a sense of closeness without needing words. People are usually careful about who they allow into their personal space and how they interact physically with someone. When someone only sees you as a casual friend, they usually keep a natural, comfortable distance. They do not often search for small opportunities to create contact. But when there is a deeper interest, when there is a connection they have not fully expressed yet, the body can start looking for small openings to create closeness. Even a brief touch can become a way of connecting. It can be a quiet way of seeing how comfortable the other person feels. He may be paying attention to your reaction. He may notice whether you become uncomfortable or whether you naturally accept the moment. And if you stayed relaxed, if you did not pull away, if you responded with warmth and ease, that information matters.
He may not consciously think about it, but he feels the difference. It creates a sense of safety, and that feeling of safety can make him more willing to show those small signs again in the future. The third sign is that his eye contact lasts slightly longer than what would normally happen in a simple everyday conversation. And at first, this one may sound obvious. Many people hear about eye contact and immediately think it is always a clear sign of attraction. But there is more to understand here. The important part is not just that he looks at you. The important part is how he looks at you and whether it happens consistently. There is a difference between a normal glance and a look that feels like he is trying to stay connected with you for just a little longer. Sometimes the eyes reveal what someone is not ready to say. A person can control their words. They can choose what they reveal. But small moments of attention often happen naturally. You may notice that he looks at you while you are speaking, not just waiting for his turn to talk, but actually taking in your expressions and reactions. You may notice that his attention returns to you even when other things are happening around him. These moments can seem ordinary, but they often create a feeling that something deeper is happening beneath the surface. And this is where many people make the mistake of ignoring what they repeatedly notice. They explain it away. They say, maybe he is just being polite. Maybe once that could be true. But when the same pattern appears again and again, it becomes something worth paying attention to. The goal is not to analyze every single look. The goal is to recognize when someone's behavior creates a consistent pattern of interest, attention, and connection. Sometimes the message is not hidden in what someone says. Sometimes it is revealed in the moments when they forget to hide what they feel.
But stay with me here, because the small detail inside this sign is where the real meaning is found. In a normal, everyday conversation between two people who are simply friends or just being respectful, eye contact naturally comes and goes. People look away, they look back, they glance around the room, they notice other things happening nearby. It feels effortless. Nobody pays attention to it because it is just part of normal communication. But when someone feels a genuine attraction or a deeper connection with you, something changes. Holding your gaze begins to feel comfortable. It becomes something they do not want to end too quickly. Looking at you becomes a moment they want to stay inside for a little longer. That is why the eye contact starts to stretch. It lasts one extra second, then another. It goes beyond the usual rhythm of a simple conversation, long enough for the energy between you to feel different.
Long enough for both people to notice that something has shifted, even if neither person says anything about it. And here is the detail that many people completely miss. It is not only about how long he looks at you, it is about what happens when that eye contact finally ends. Pay attention to the moment after the look breaks. Where does his attention go? Because there is a difference between looking down, looking away to the side, or simply looking around the room. When someone looks down after a strong moment of eye contact, it can show that the moment affected them. It can be a tiny pause where they gather themselves and return to normal. It is a small reaction, sometimes lasting less than a second, but those little reactions can reveal a lot because they often happen naturally. You cannot easily force a genuine moment of being affected by someone. You cannot pretend that something touched you when it did not. So if you have experienced those moments where the eye contact lasted longer than expected and he looked down right afterward, do not immediately dismiss it. It may have been a quiet moment where he felt something but chose not to put it into words. Sometimes the strongest signals are the ones that happen before a person even realizes they are showing them. The fourth sign is that he naturally starts matching your behavior without even realizing he is doing it. This is called mirroring, and it often happens when two people feel connected and comfortable around each other. It is not a trick. It is not something someone usually plans. It happens automatically. You lean slightly forward while explaining something, and later you notice he has done the same. You begin speaking more slowly, and without thinking about it, his pace starts matching yours. You laugh, and he joins in with your energy because he is connected to the moment with you. You change your posture, move your hands, or tilt your head while talking, and after some time, he begins making similar movements without either of you noticing. His mood starts responding to yours. When you are open and relaxed, he becomes more open too. When you become quieter, his energy may naturally become calmer. This is what happens when someone is truly paying attention to another person beyond basic politeness. They are not just hearing words, they are responding to your presence. And this is why this sign is so interesting, because it is difficult to fake consistently. Someone can choose to smile, someone can choose to make eye contact, someone can choose to appear interested for a short time, but matching another person's small movements, timing, tone, and energy throughout a real interaction is much harder to create intentionally. It usually happens because the person is naturally focused on you. So if you have noticed that his reactions often seem connected to yours, that his communication style begins to match yours, that his energy changes depending on the energy you bring into the room, do not ignore that pattern. Sometimes the body reveals where the attention truly is. Sometimes connection appears through small unconscious behaviors before it ever becomes a spoken feeling. The fifth sign is that he keeps creating reasons to stay longer than he originally planned. This sign is powerful because it is so simple that many people overlook it. They see it happen and immediately explain it away. He tells you he can only stay for a short time, but then much more time passes and he is still there, continuing the conversation. He starts gathering his things, maybe even reaches for his jacket or keys, but somehow he ends up sitting back down and talking again. The conversation reaches a natural stopping point where leaving would make perfect sense, but then he brings up another question. He remembers another story. He finds another topic to explore. Somehow there is always one more thing to talk about, and the reason this matters is because people naturally move toward what feels enjoyable and meaningful. When someone wants to stay, they often create small bridges that allow the moment to continue. It is not always because they have nothing else to do. It is because being around you feels good, the connection feels comfortable, the time feels valuable. Leaving means returning to distance, and some part of him may not be ready for that moment yet, so he stretches the interaction. He allows the conversation to continue a little longer. He looks for another reason to remain in the same space. The explanations he gives may sound practical because saying the real reason directly may feel too vulnerable. The real reason might simply be that he enjoys being near you and wants more time with you. If this keeps happening, if he regularly stays longer than expected, if your conversations always seem to continue beyond the original plan, pay attention to that pattern. It may not be about losing track of time. It may be about not wanting the moment with you to end. That is him choosing to give his time and attention to you instead of all the other things he could be doing in that moment. The sixth sign is that his body naturally keeps turning in your direction, even when the situation does not require him to do so. This sign is quiet. It is subtle, but once you learn how to notice it, you start seeing it everywhere. When people are sitting in a group or sharing the same space, the way their body is positioned often reveals where their true attention is going, because someone can look at you, speak to you, and still have their body completely facing somewhere else. Their eyes may be involved, but their physical presence tells a different story. However, when a person feels naturally drawn towards someone, their body often begins moving in that direction without conscious effort. Their feet point toward that person, their shoulders turn toward them, their chest stays open in their direction.
Their entire posture starts reflecting where their interest is focused. So if you are around other people and you notice that his body keeps facing you even while he is talking with someone else, if his feet are naturally pointed toward you while sitting nearby, if he keeps adjusting himself so he remains connected to your space even when there is no practical reason to do so, do not immediately ignore it. It may not just be a random position. It may be a reflection of where his attention naturally goes. His words might be involved in another conversation, but his body may still be showing where he feels most connected. And this is what makes body language so interesting. Words can be carefully chosen, people can control what they say, but many physical reactions happen before a person has time to think about them. Sometimes the body reveals what the mind is still trying to understand. Sometimes the smallest movements tell the biggest stories.
The seventh sign is that he responds to your touch differently compared to ordinary casual contact from other people. This can be one of the most revealing signs because it often happens in a very small moment. Sometimes it lasts less than a second, which is why many people completely miss it. The next time you touch him, even in a simple and harmless way, pay attention to what happens right afterward. Does he become still for a brief moment? Does his expression slightly change? Does his energy become a little quieter? Does he look at the place where you touched him or look back at you with a different kind of attention? These tiny reactions can reveal a lot. When someone feels a stronger connection with you, your touch may not register the same way as anyone else's. It is not just about the physical contact itself. It is about the meaning attached to that contact. A simple touch from someone important can create a reaction that is difficult to hide. Even someone who tries to appear calm and unaffected may show a small shift. That short pause, that moment where he seems to process what just happened, that slight change in his expression or energy. It does not necessarily mean he is uncomfortable. Sometimes it means the moment had an impact. Now compare that with how he responds when other people interact with him in the same casual way. Does his reaction change when it comes from you? Does something about his attention become sharper? Does the moment seem to carry more weight? If you have noticed that difference, you were already seeing the sign. You just may not have had the words to explain why it stood out. Sometimes we notice these small details long before we understand what they mean. The eighth sign is that he creates little moments of closeness that do not really have a practical reason, except that he wanted to create them. And this is the sign that brings all the others together because it is not about one single action. It is about the overall pattern. It is about all the small choices that begin adding up over time. He remembers a small detail you mentioned weeks ago and casually brings it up later, showing that he was not just hearing your words, but actually paying attention. He discovers something that reminds him of you and makes sure to share it with you. He suggests activities or moments that involve just the two of you, even when including more people would have been the easier option. He creates little jokes, private references, and memories that belong only to the two of you. Then he brings those moments back into conversation because they matter to him. These things may look small from the outside, but they reveal something important. He is creating a sense of connection that feels unique between you and him. He is building small spaces where the two of you feel separate from the rest of the world. And people usually do not do that without a reason. They do not consistently create these personal moments simply out of politeness. They do it because a person has become meaningful to them. They do it because they are paying attention.